Hey y'all, thanks for joining me for part 2 of the issue with the Phanar and geopolitics involved, and with the UOC and the Russian Orthodox Church, the situation there. The second video is about the Phanar Schism, Elpidophoros on the UOC and the Geopolitical Firestorm. We're going to talk about this particular interview that the Archbishop had, and how one of the journalists has a counter argument and explains what he sees from where he is. He's a Ukrainian journalist, and I'm going to share that with you. I'm going to talk about each part, but I have it summarized because it's a very long article. So I took notes, and I'm going to summarize it for you, so I won't be reading the whole article to you. So let's get to it. The author of this article is Nazar Golovko, and he is doing an analysis on this interview with Archbishop Elpidophoros. And I'm just going to call him Archbishop El from now on because it's much easier to say. Throughout the article, I think what the journalist is trying to say, the author, is that there's a double standard. Okay, so we'll start with the fact that, first off, Archbishop El begins his statements, answers to the interviewer, by stating that the Russian Orthodox Church has historically served as an instrument of the Russian state, from Tsarist times through the communist era to the present day. As I said, I looked in the past on another video I did, that yes, that's how it was always with the Tsar. When the Tsars were in, there was a very close relationship between the Holy Synod in Russia, of the Russian Church, with the Tsar. Doesn't mean that the Tsar always listened, but there was that communication regularly. And then during the USSR period, that was the one time when it wasn't. You had the fake church, but the real church was not involved because they were persecuted. You know, they were a catacomb church at the time. So that period, no. But when they came out of that and the USSR fell, then they tried to bring back, I think, a Tsarist type of Russia type of government once again. I do have a piece on this that I thought's important, pardon me, to share, and it is from this particular Russian site. It was out September 3rd, 2024. It says Russian Orthodox Church influence in politics. It says that the Russian Orthodox Church holds a unique position in Russia's political landscape. Its influence extends beyond spiritual matters, affecting social and political spheres as well. Understanding the Church's role in politics reveals how deeply intertwined religion and governance can be in Russia. The Russian Orthodox Church has a long history of involvement in politics. Okay? For centuries, it played a key role in shaping the country's identity and policies. Historically, the Church often worked closely with the state, as I just said, particularly during the Tsarist era, when it was considered a pillar of the monarchy. This close relationship set the stage for the Church's continued influence in modern times. In contemporary Russia, the Russian Orthodox Church enjoys a close relationship with the government. This partnership is often described as Symphonia, a concept where the Church and state work together harmoniously. While Russia is officially a secular state, the Church's influence is evident in various aspects of governance and public life. For instance, the Church's moral teachings often align with government policies on issues with family values and social morality. The Russian Orthodox Church actively engages in discussions on moral and social issues. It has a strong voice in debates over matters such as abortion, same-sex marriage, and education. The Church's stance on these issues is often conservative, reflecting traditional Orthodox teachings. By influencing public opinion and political decisions, the Church helps shape the country's moral landscape. The Russian Orthodox Church also plays a significant role in promoting national identity and patriotism. It supports the idea of Russia as a unique civilization with its own values rooted in orthodoxy. This notion reinforces the Church's influence in political discourse as it aligns closely with the government's emphasis on national pride and sovereignty. The Church's promotion of Orthodox Christianity as a core part of Russian identity strengthens its position in society. The Church's influence extends to endorsing political candidates and policies. While the Church officially remains neutral, its leaders occasionally express support for certain politicians or legislative measures that align with Orthodox values. This support can sway public opinion and influence election outcomes, making the Church a powerful player in Russian politics. The Russian Orthodox Church also plays a role in international relations, particularly in countries with significant Orthodox populations. The Church's leadership often engages in diplomatic efforts, promoting peace and understanding between nations. This involvement in global affairs highlights the Church's broader influence beyond Russia's borders as it seeks to strengthen ties with other Orthodox communities worldwide. Of course, despite its influence, the ROC faces challenges and criticisms. Some critics argue that the Church's close relationship with the state compromises its independence and spiritual mission. Others believe that the Church's involvement in politics can lead to the marginalization of other religious groups and the erosion of secular principles. These concerns highlight the delicate balance the Church must maintain between its religious duties and political influence. It also has a role in legislation. Its impact on legislation is another significant aspect of its political influence. The Church often advocates for the laws that reflect Orthodox teachings, particularly on issues related to morality and family life. Its lobbying effects can result in legislation that aligns with Orthodox values, further embedding the Church's influence in the country's legal framework. So, you see that the state and the Church are indeed intertwined. No doubt about it. I think the author is saying, why does similar criticism not apply to the rapprochement between the state and the Church in Ukraine? So he goes on to say, the author says that he agrees that excessively close cooperation, as Archbishop El put it, between the Russian Orthodox Church and the Russian state, especially the support for the war, is indeed a fact. This does establish the influence of the Russian state structures and security services, as we know, so on the Russian Orthodox Church. Although, according to that article, it's more the other way around. The Russian Orthodox Church is influencing the state, is what I've been reading. Okay? So it's kind of not quite the way that the state's more involved, but it seems to me what they're saying is that the Church, the Russian Orthodox Church, has more influence on the state than the state has on the Church, is what I was just reading to you. Okay? But in any case, there is the connection, the intertwining of the state and the Church, which, like I said, is historically the fact of how Russia has been. That's their structure for until that 70 years of Soviet rule. Okay. So the article uses the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, the OCU, formation to illustrate a double standard. It points out that the process of granting the Thomas, the autocephaly, was actually initiated by the then president of Ukraine, Poroshenko. And he made a key theme of, and it was a made a key theme of his election campaign. So what did I learn by looking up? Because of course, what we understand it as the interaction between state and church was so close in the Ukraine that the president's name was included in the Thomas document, proving the OCU was deeply entwined with secular political interest and government power. So again, when I tried to look up the separation of church and state with Ukraine, the first three, there was almost like three in a row in the search engine showed it came up with the U.S. State Department. Not the Ukrainian government, but the U.S. State Department, which was kind of odd, but it just tells you how involved our country's government is with the Ukrainian government. And I mean, most people really already knew that, but that's what happened when I tried that. So again, the Ukrainian, before, when they were obviously, during again, it's the same thing, during the time of the USSR, yeah, it was a different story, but they still had their church. And then in 1991, when they were granted supposedly independence, well, it really wasn't that independent, because as you saw, this was going on eventually, and there was problems already with this. There was that when it first started independence, the UOC was still the main church in Ukraine, the official church, the official religion, okay, the Orthodox Church. And then later, the meddling and all that happened with the state, our government, and then the government itself, the Ukrainian government, and its ties to the OCU, the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, which was the gathering of the schismatics. All right? So Ukraine, too, has the connection that there's no separation. Neither Russian Orthodox or the Ukrainian Orthodox had real separation of church and state in either one of them. And I will add that the U.S. supposedly, they say it's in the Constitution, separation of church and state. However, throughout history, I think there was probably some issue with that, because I do know recently, we know this, that I just did in the first segment of this, was that the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese was connected and is still connected to the State Department, and also the EP in extension are connected to the U.S. State Department and the CIA and other intelligence agencies. So all three, in this regard, have ties to the church, the state, and the church. So there is no separation. We also have, in this current administration, the evangelical pastors that are tied to this administration, and his faith advisor, and that whole group, and the NAR, and as I said, the 7 MMs, the 7 Mountain Mandate, the evangelicals, Huckabee as the ambassador to Israel, the U.S. ambassador to Israel. So, this is what I'm saying. All three are in the same boat. Okay? So, the Archbishop claimed UOC hierarchs didn't join the OCU because of unfair pressure. They didn't join the OCU because of unfair pressure, quote unquote, from Russian security services. But the author of the article, he says the opposite was true. Ukrainian security services, the SBU, were exerting, quote, this is a quote, exerting intense pressure on UOC hierarchs to make them attend the OCU's Unification Council. Okay. This pressure included UOC bishops being abducted, taken away, and directly threatened to stop them from remaining under Metropolitan Onufri. It's pointed out in the article that only 2 out of 100 bishops eventually gave in. Now, the author concludes with saying that Archbishop El's claim that the FSB had carte blanche to pressure all of the UOC episcopate in modern Ukraine is an, quote, outright humiliation of the SBU in favor of the FSB, which means that meaning the SBU was useless. It didn't do anything to stop the supposed monopoly of pressure from the FSB, which is ridiculous, isn't it? So, again, state interference intertwined with the church, except this one is the OCU, with the SBU and the state. Russian Orthodox Church with the Russian state. The Greek Orthodox Archdiocese, the EP, the Phanar, and U.S. State Department and Intelligence Agency. So, what we see is that although he makes a point, the Archbishop, oh, well, look, the Russian connection, he does not point out it's the same for the Ukrainian one, and it's the same for our own government. And if you're going to make a point and be fair, you would be saying all 3 are doing the same thing. So, important information. And what I found, in my opinion, the way he was speaking in that piece that I originally did a while ago, where he was giving the ultimatum to the UOC, I found that very much like coercion, a type of blackmail. You better do this. You got to come under the EP, or you're not a canonical church, which was really reprehensible in my opinion. So this what I got out of this, and what the current state is with these 3 states involved, and the U.S. obviously State Department, all that is also heavily involved in the Ukrainian government, and Zelensky and all that too, as we know. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. That's my second portion, to show you what's going on there. Also, so for segment 3, we're going to be talking about pan-Orthodox councils, the EP, and how that works, and more into the canonicity and of how the EP works. So stay tuned for that. It's a very interesting segment. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, for following my channel, and for all your support, and also your wonderful comments under my videos. They're very thoughtful, helpful, interesting. And if you would like to subscribe, if you haven't, please do. Like my video if you think it's worth it. It helps me in the algorithms. If you'd like to support my work, you can buy me a cup of coffee. The link is in the description, or you can hit one of those super thanks buttons that is below this video in that panel right under the video. If it doesn't show, then there is the 3 dots that you can click on, and I believe it's in there. So, thanks so much again. God bless.